Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you want your child to do something, you ask them to do it, and they either refuse to do it, totally ignore you, or answer with something like, "In a minute, I'll do it in a minute." This is a critical moment in parenting. And of course, if you're a parent, you have likely experienced it. For today's Peek at Parenting, I would like to talk about this particular situation. It's called a power struggle. And I want to talk about what a power struggle is, why we as parents always lose if we engage in them, and what we can do instead so that we don't find ourselves in struggle after struggle after struggle. So the first thing that we need to know is what is going on for our kids at the moment that they decide to refuse to do a very simple request. You know, pick up your jacket, put your dish in the dishwasher, get ready for bed. I mean, sometimes we can figure out what's going on. They don't want to go to bed. But other times, it's just such a simple thing. Can you put your toy back on the shelf? And they walk away, ignoring us. Or they actually turn around and say, no. The reason our kids do this, and this is not a conscious thing, okay, but it is a very human thing. At that particular moment, they are checking out their power. What kind of power do I have? Can I choose when or if I'm going to pick up that toy? Can I choose when or if I'm going to go to bed? These are things that allow us to grow as a human when we get to make these kinds of choices and decide these kinds of things. And so the kids are testing the waters. They're trying to see how much power they have and how far they can push it. Now, oftentimes power struggles will happen around things that our kids totally control. Whether or not they're going to go to the bathroom, whether or not they're going to eat something, whether they're going to eat something we don't want them to eat, when they're going to go to sleep. Okay, those are the worst power struggles because you really cannot force your child to do it. And yet, as a parent of a young child, even of an older child, the first thing we typically do when our child refuses or ignores us is we up the ante. We pull out our parent power. We puff up a little bit, which is a very natural human response to any challenge. Okay, we increase our level of voice, you know, how loud we're speaking, the intensity of our look, okay, and what it is we're saying. So if we've asked them to pick up their jacket and they ignore us or they say no, you know, we might intensify it and pick up your jacket, please. They still ignore us? Get back there right now and pick up your jacket. What we're doing is we are increasing our power in order to get them to do what it is that we want them to do. Now here's the problem with that. The kids do this in the first place because they're testing their own power. They're wanting to see what they're able to do, whether or not they can call the shots. When we increase our response, we're agreeing that, okay, let's have this struggle. Let's see who has more power. We bring our power to the table. They're testing for power. We have got a tug-o-war. So anytime that our kids won't do what we ask, clearly just because they don't want to do what we have asked, okay, then we need to know the setup is there. They're holding out a rope and they're saying, hey, you want a tug-o-war with me? Now we don't have to pick up that rope. The moment we pull out our power and use our power in a powerful way with the voice and everything else, we have bought into that power struggle. Now why is this a problem? Well, because our kids want power in the first place, if we pull out our power, and so maybe we pull out our power and we make them do what it is that we want them to do. Does that convince our kids that power isn't a good thing to want? No. It actually has the opposite effect. It makes our kids feel like, oh, if only I had more power. Now again, this isn't conscious thought. They just intuitively know this. One day I'll show her. She can't just tell me what to do. So by us winning the power struggle, we actually increase the odds for future power struggles to occur because our kids feel this strong desire to get themselves more power. All right? So you might think, okay, what if I let my kids win? Well, here's the problem with that. The moment that they win the power struggle, what happens? They feel like, wow, I like that feeling. It's a very powerful feeling to win a power struggle. So guess what? They have a natural desire to want more power. If we want to decrease power struggles and increase the collaboration, the working together in the home, then we want to have as few power struggles as possible. Yet every time we have one, whether we win them or lose them, we increase our kids' desire to want to participate in them. It's very powerful to make an adult lose it. Okay, so if you flip out completely and say, okay, I don't care, I just don't care, go, do whatever, you know, whatever it is that you wanted or they wanted to do and you were telling them they couldn't do, the moment that you do that, you've lost, right? So it's really important to remember that and to know that that's really why we don't want to participate in them. Now, of course, you are going to sometimes have that very human response. You're going to puff up. You're going to use that voice that, you know, is a no-nonsense voice of you listen to me right now. The way that we actually avoid the power struggle is we stand our ground, but we do it calmly. It's time to get ready for bed. And your child says, no, I don't want to go to bed. And so you say, okay, well, you know, if we go fast, then you'll have time for maybe 2 stories instead of 1. Or whatever it is that they like to do, whatever's part of their tuck-in ritual. Now, I'm not telling you this to say this is how you should put your kids to bed. What I'm doing is saying by staying calm, by not getting upset, by not buying into the fight and allowing the emotions to increase, then we aren't picking up the tug-of-war rope. We are simply being a parent. Your dish needs to go in the dishwasher. Did you hear what I asked? You need to come back and get your dish and take it to the dishwasher. They still ignore you, then you probably have some kind of consequence that you use, okay, that you can now put into place. You didn't do as I asked, you didn't listen to me, it's time for you to go to timeout, or whatever it is that you use. I'm not saying that's what the consequence would be. But what I want you to understand is by staying calm, by being very clear on what you're asking, sticking with it. Don't just let it ride and let them walk away without doing anything at all, or you're teaching them to test that power. Of course, there are a few things that you might want to think about, like how can you build more choice into your child's life? Because if they're pushing for this power struggle, they're wanting a few more choices. Now, you might already give lots of choices, so that doesn't mean you have to increase them if you already do. It also means you want to be clear on your consequences so that you're able to put a consequence in place without it making you all upset and throwing a really angry consequence out, like you're grounded for 2 weeks, you know, where you didn't want to ground them at all just because they didn't put their dish in the dishwasher. So having clear consequences will really help you to do that. When we're aware of why we do the things we do, it really can make a difference and make it a lot easier for us to be in control of when they do happen. Now, the one last thing I want to say is that sometimes you'll find yourselves in the heat of the moment, you know, you're tired, you're stressed, whatever the case may be, you're tired of fighting with them, and you end up in a power struggle before you suddenly realize it and go, oh no, this is a power struggle, I don't want to do this. When this happens, I've given you a link below that you can go to and download a copy of a page from my book, Break Free of Parenting Pressures, which tells you what you can do to get yourself out of the power struggle, how you can deal with it now, what you can do to cash in on it now that you're already there. So if you want that, you can go to my site and download that and print it off, stick it on your fridge or wherever to remind you of what you can do when you get there. You'll still have power struggles, but boy, you don't want to be having tug-of-wars every single day because it'll exhaust you, it'll exhaust your kids, and in the end it can be very damaging to a relationship. I'd love to hear your feedback. If you want to leave comments, you can leave them below this video, or you can send me an email at the address below. Until next time, I'm Debbie Pokornik, and this has been a peek at parenting.